Hello TTV fans and YouTube dwellers alike, this is Ven, and I welcome you all to the M.O.C Spotlight, where we take apart what you build. Today's episode we'll be looking at something very interesting for a very special occasion, and that occasion is that this is the M.O.C Spotlight's 10th episode, which some of you may identify as the final episode, but it really isn't. But anyway, today we will be looking at DrScorpionX, created by DrScorpionX. So yep, it's a self-mock. Now DrScorpionX is fairly well known on YouTube for his series of Bioformers, mocks that can actually transform, a nod to the world famous Transformer toys. So now anyway, let me tell you about my method of reviewing, which involves a point system that is based on 3 fundamental attributes: the overall appearance of the mock, the build of the mock itself, and the concept and ideas behind the mock's creation. All of these qualities will amount up to 5 points each for a final score that will be determined at the end of the episode, and remember, this is all my opinion. Feel free to construct your own, whatever. Alright, so what's really going to make this episode quite special is that the demonstration of this mock is very different from what we're usually used to getting, by which I mean instead of pictures, we'll be looking at a video that DrScorpionX made to demonstrate all the aspects of this mock, and we will be looking at still frames as well, such as this. And with that said, I think it'd be more fitting for me to work a bit backwards this episode and start talking about the concepts, and it'll make sense as I go along. But yeah, the big idea behind this mock is that it's supposed to be not only a self-mock, but it was also built with the purpose of incorporating a transformation feature. So as you can see, we have all these like little vehicle things just kind of moving towards each other. And oh, what's this? They can all transform individually.
But wait, Ven, where's that big mock that we saw in the very beginning of the episode?
Whoa, wait! Would you look at that? These little things are forming the body. You can see the legs just attaching to the crotch and just all that other stuff kind of build up together, and oh, lo and behold, there's the mock. Alright, so the dude had the idea of taking all these little miniature constructions and making them all capable of changing shape in order to form up this body, kind of like Devastator. Alright, that's a pretty cool idea. It looks like it was executed fairly well. But the thing about Devastator and other combined Transformers that exist is that each of the components of the body were distinctive vehicles. So for Devastator, you had construction vehicle Transformers that would come together and combine and form up this big guy. And then here we have some tanks, I want to say, or well, one of them looks like a tank and then the others just kind of look like maybe miniature ships or something. I guess they don't really have to be vehicles, they can just be like whatevers that come together and combine and whatnot. But anyway, that's not really the only feature that this mock has anyway, so I'm pretty sure he wasn't as concerned about making these things look like real distinguishable vehicles as he would be with... Whoa, look at that! This thing can still transform, and this time it transformed into an actual tank. Like, this actually looks like a tank. By golly, that looks like that turned out really well. And, oh wait, look, it's not finished. It's still transforming. Oh, now it's a jet. Clearly this is a jet. I mean, he says it's a jet, and it looks kind of like how a jet would look. Alright, look, it goes without saying that this guy had some pretty ambitious ideas when it came to creating this mock. I mean, these are some really good ideas, and I'd say he executed them very well. I didn't expect half of these things to be done. Like, you'd think each of these features would be done for like a separate creation. You wouldn't think that all of these features would be done in a single creation. The fact they could transform into 2 different vehicle modes and separate into like 5 individual construction, I don't know what they are. But man, gotta give you a lot of props for getting that done. I'm honestly pretty inspired to like make something similar to this myself. Now I want to start looking at the build of this. So it's actually a bit hard for me to see exactly all the fine details of the construction of this mock, but from what I can make out, it looks very solid. The only point I can probably make against that is that there's a lot of moving parts in here. But, like, there's a lot of small moving parts, so it seems like any problems in that regard would be, like, cosmetic. I don't think it would affect the actual build or the posture of this M.O.C. It looks like when all of these parts are combined together that they're attached really securely, so it doesn't look like the combining feature will really affect or hinder this M.O.C's posture, which is really good. And with that said, every portion of this M.O.C is very nicely compact. Like, there's a lot of small parts that go into the structure of this M.O.C and help support it in all of the modes. It's also worth noting that this M.O.C is surprisingly well articulated. I mean, of course you'd expect some form of articulation given that there's a lot of moving parts in this M.O.C, but it's just really impressive that he paid as much attention to articulation as he did. You have like movable fingers and bending within the body parts that should be bending. I mean, that is just really well done. I'm personally fairly pleased with the build of this M.O.C, and I think my only concern, or the only concern I can really think of, is any of these moving parts or shifting parts for transformation purposes going out of whack, but it doesn't even look like that would be possible. Or, well, I mean that it wouldn't happen too often. So with all that said, now I want to talk about the appearance. So with all the attention being put into the functionality of this M.O.C, you'd think that there would be a lot of sacrifices in terms of the aesthetic and whether this M.O.C turned out looking like a piece of crap or what have you. But no, this M.O.C actually looks pretty good. A nice consistent color scheme of gold, black, and gray with a little bit of green here and there for like the eyes and the blaster, whatever. Oh, and silver here and there as well. All the colors here mesh together quite nicely. I probably would have added a bit more gold to the chest or the hands maybe, because that seems to be the primary color and it doesn't look like there's enough of it here and there. I'm also not the biggest fan of those gigantic gears on the front part of the hands, but that's okay, I guess. If he likes it, whatever. Another thing I'm not a big fan of is the head. It's kind of like a golden Borak Va head on a stilt. I think he could have come up with something a bit more interesting and maybe a bit more fitting with the rest of this M.O.C, because I don't think that head really fits too well, but oh well. I do like the design of the torso and the legs especially. Though I did mention that a bit of gold on the torso would have been nice, it still looks really good. And I'd probably have to say that the legs are my most favorite part of this M.O.C in terms of appearance. Jeez, I'm talking way too much about the robot mode. Let me go ahead and start talking about all the vehicle modes. And so as far as these little components go, it's really one of those cases where it's like, I like how it looks. I don't know what it is, but it looks cool. Because, yeah, as I mentioned earlier, I'm not 100% sure on what each one of these components are supposed to be. Like, maybe the vehicles or whatever. But they look nice. They don't look like a bunch of turds coming together or anything like that to, like, sing Kumbaya to the toilet. But you know what I really think looks cool? Most definitely the other forms of this M.O.C. The tank mode and the jet mode look really cool. They're very interesting looking in design. Like the tank, while it isn't really anything like a real life tank that I at least know about, it's a pretty neat looking design, especially like how it's kind of like a mortar in the back of the vehicle. Though I will say one thing I'm not too sure how I feel about is the little Brachiosaurus head just kind of sticking out in the front and wiggling around. I think the jet mode is probably my favorite form of this M.O.C. It really reminds me of like Cybertronian jets and Transformers, like the thing that Megatron transformed into in the 07 movie. That's what it reminds me of, and it looks really cool. I think it's very clever how the cannon on the tank mode essentially becomes the nose of the jet mode. Obviously, I've got a lot of praise for this M.O.C. And without further ado, let's go on to the scores. In terms of appearance, this M.O.C receives a 4 out of 5. The robot mode is okay looking, and so are those little components that combine into this robot mode. They're okay looking, you know, not bad at all. I like them. but I especially did like the jet and the tank mode. Really good designs throughout. Looking at the build of this MOC, I will easily give it a 5 out of 5. I'm very much impressed with how well this MOC was constructed, and I don't really see anything that would tell me to think otherwise. And the concept and ideas behind this MOC, I'll give it a 5 out of 5 as well. Great ambition, great execution of all his ideas. I think I already expressed all that enough. And finally, the final score, 14 out of 15. So close. This MOC is astoundingly good. A very well thought out and put together creation. But I still think with maybe a few more changes here and there, that this MOC could probably be straight up perfect. Great job on this anyway, DrScorpionX. I really hope to see more out of you. And thank you all for watching. This has been the MOC Spotlight. Be sure to rate, comment, subscribe, and do all that jazz. See you all next time.